Okay, guys, welcome back to the Good Demand podcast. Today we have Christian Van Camp. Christian is one of the most fittest guys and healthiest guys I have met and known. He goes by CBC Wellness on Instagram, and we're going to talk to him about how he got his great physique in a natural way, no steroids. A lot of the guys you see on Instagram or anywhere on YouTube are enhanced, which is, their prerogative. But we want to be able to build a beautiful, healthy physique. And I think Christian is one of the best examples. And brought him here for you guys today. We're going to unravel his secrets so we can also achieve that for ourselves. He is about to jump on in a second. Let's get it going. Thank you so much for being on. And we're going to get started. I kind of want to just give people what they want from the get. Dude, you're a pinnacle of health and physiqueness, just buff and tough. So I want to start with that. How did you get into your physique? Because a lot of people on Instagram and YouTube, they went through this huge phase of bulking and cutting and treating their body with, disrespect and junk and steroids. But luckily, you're able to do it in a healthy fashion. And I feel like that's where everybody should head towards: healthy bodybuilding and building themselves up. Where did you start with that? How did you get to where you're at today?
It was just starting off as the runt, picking up weights, not knowing what I'm doing, haphazardly, just like going every which way in the gym, like a chicken with its head cut off, as we all do when we're starting on this journey with fitness. And so for me, it was just like right around 18, getting out of high school, I didn't have the avenues of track and field or soccer and those sports to keep me active and, my go mentality throughout my body. And so I started delving into lifting weights. I was like, okay, I'm a real skinny guy. I have a good frame on me. I always recognize that. I was always, really lean at the time just from all that activity. And I was like, I have some potential here. And I got really inspired from big names out there like Ben Greenfield, you're probably familiar with, Paul Check I started delving into, and just amazing wizards in the health space. But they were all about not just that performance when it comes to how you look on the outside, but really that performance from within to the outside. And so started tapping into a lot of that, listening to a ton of podcasts and exploring and self-education books. Just consistency, man, just consistency. Like, the only way we can really learn is by stepping into the crazy waters and seeing what happens and just trying to swim, right? Like when we're learning to swim, we have to just jump in the water without the floaty, or whenever we're learning to ride a bike, we have to take off the training wheels. So for me, it was like really getting uncomfortable with learning things and tapping into those dynamic movements over time. And, one thing led to the next. I started gaining muscle more easily, finding the right little mechanisms and modalities to really keep it on and improve the performance thereafter.
Yeah. I've heard you speak about like reverse pyramid training, and that's something where I kind of started to build more muscle, where it's like these big, heavier lifts. Like I did today, like some really big shoulder press, dropped it about 10-20%, increased the reps, and then dropped it another. Yeah. And then like by the end of it, you feel like you really fatigue the nervous system, but then also the muscle. Is that something you still recommend for people who are trying to build on some of that size? And is that how you did it too, or?
Yeah, for sure. Now, if you're just getting started, I always recommend make sure you build a foundation with your joints and ligaments first, because if you are starting with your heaviest first, and your body's not equipped for that with the joints and the articulations, then you're going to set yourself up for failure because you're going to hurt yourself and injure yourself. So I always recommend, start with lighter reverse pyramid training. So you can start with like a 10 rep range to start with your first set.
Yeah.
And then do like, okay, decrease again, do for 12. Decrease again, do for 15, whatever, something like that, versus like that 4 to 6 rep, super high density, heavy. It takes a lot of security in those joints. Like today, I was blown away at this, man. This is where I love going to the gym because I'm always excelling, and it translates to the real world. Like if you do well in the gym and are constantly progressively overloading, it applies to like financial progressions or emotional progressions, understanding about your spirit. So hitting 105-pound dumbbells on an incline bench press, just doing 7 reps that were really solid on that. I'm like, whoa, like I'm hitting over the triple digits now consistently. And it wasn't like that 3 months ago. I was hitting like 90s. And so it's just cool seeing what we can do with this. And reverse pyramid training, I coin as a big part of it for sure.
Dude, so you got two 100?
2 105-pounders today. Yeah.
Oh,
Dude,
dude, that's
insane. But
badass.
see, like what you were saying, man, is like the nervous system afterwards. I was like, you know, I'm not out of breath, but my nervous system, like, I gotta sit for 3 minutes after that because that is like
Yeah.
tense. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the rest period's key.
Wait, so you also did shoulder presses today?
So this is what I did today. Reverse
Okay.
pyramid training. I did 4 sets of incline dumbbell bench press, and then I switched over to heavy weighted dips.
Nice.
And then I did a superset of tricep extensions, and on top of that, some lateral raises with dumbbells. Did some cable versions of that too.
Oh, yeah.
But before actually all of that, I totally forgot. I warmed up and focused primarily on Nordic curls. So I've been really trying to master the Nordic curls and doing really well with that. So did Nordic curls, which are basically the hamstring movement. For those of you that don't know, it's absolutely the best thing I've ever done for bulletproofing my knees.
Yeah.
So started off with that, did like 5, 6 sets of that, some, you know, light leg movement because I always like getting grounded in the legs before every workout because I'm such a top heavy guy anyway. So it always helps out with getting back in the hips. But yeah, that was today. It's super simple, man, but it's super effective at the physique part of it.
Dude, I love that. Are you looking to get a pump? Like, is that something that you're like aiming towards? You know, we've always heard like Arnold Schwarzenegger, especially like on pumping iron, like he loves the pump. And is that something that like when you're trying to get a really good workout and, you know, achieve hypertrophy, is that something that you're kind of looking for?
Not necessarily. For me, I mean, I get that as a like secondary benefit. I love the pump. I mean, there's something about that. They came out recently, they came out with some research, and this is just known, but they really proved it. They're called hope molecules, and your body releases these hope molecules, which are basically the purest form of antidepressant. And it's literally just activating muscle tissue and working these muscle tissues. And we know this through endorphins you get from exercising and stuff, but quite literally, even right now, just flexing your bicep right now is going to release these neurochemicals that helps you just feel more calm and just more excited about life. And like, I feel that every time I go into the gym, 15, 20, 30 minutes in, I'm like, whoa, I feel like amazing right now. There's something crazy about this. So I don't really chase the pump. It comes naturally. And there's a lot of things we can even talk about today with pump wise. I'd love, you know, things that can really amplify that. But for the most part, I'm chasing like density, not the pump, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, explain density. Are you meaning like heavy contractions, neural push, or what do you mean by density?
So there's 2 different forms of overall hypertrophy per se. And so hypertrophy is quite literally the growth of muscle tissue. And so we can have sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which is basically just drawing water into the muscle tissue. And that's a temporary party pump, I like to say. Right now, I could drop down, do 30 push-ups. Oh, man, I got this little pump going. I can see more definition in my chest. Great. Yeah. But is that going to build muscle? No. It's just going to help out with working that overall energy system. And then we have more of the dense figure of things. And this is like real deal hypertrophy. This is what, you know, you work in certain contractions where the myofibrillar hypertrophy is what's called myofibrillar. You're working the myofibrils, which are the actual muscle cells within the overall cellular matrix. It's the actual cells. And so if you can grow those by tearing them up and really, you know, drawing those things apart, then your body will heal later on by the inputs you give it through nutrition and rest and sleep and all that. Then that's actually going to stimulate real hypertrophy, like growth. So there's also, it's really crazy, man. So one thing I've been tapping into is like, okay, you see bodybuilders and they look amazing. And then you see powerlifters and then, you know, they have nice physiques, but it's not like a super aesthetic thing. It's just they're strong as fuck.
Yeah.
So that's the idea, is like the strength part of it is like real, like that's considered like real hypertrophy technically. Now, when we look at bodybuilders, it's not really applicable muscle tissue. They aren't really strong, but they're bigger muscles, right? Yeah. So it depends on what goal you're really aiming at. Is it real raw strength, or is it like just building the muscle tissue itself, not necessarily the strength tied to it? So I'm all about tying both of those things together. And that's where reverse pyramid training is amazing, because I have so much strength in my body and people are blown away at how much I'm doing, because I'm not the biggest guy in the gym, but I'm really working on those systems. And then I'm also working on, you know, after decreasing the load and increasing the volume over time, I'm able to get more of that bodybuilding part of it. So that's where the physique part comes in.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Kind of. So you're training both aspects of it.
Yes, through reverse pyramid training,
and then the pump as well.
Exactly.
Well, where does the density part come in, you said?
So that's when the lower rep ranges you work in. And so that's why starting with that 4 to 6 rep range, typically powerlifters will know do no more than 5 reps for their stuff. And then they rest for 3 to 5 minutes because it's so hard on the nervous system.
Yeah.
And that's the philosophy around it, is hit those lower rep ranges first, and then you can really start to increase the volume later on to hit those bodybuilding status stuff.
Yeah.
But the density really comes from hitting those lower rep ranges. So that's the cool part.
Got it.
That's where the myofibrils grow, right?
Got it. I was about to say, have you heard of wave loading?
No, tell me about this. What is this?
Wave loading is like you'll do a set, maybe like just a basic, 10 rep set, and then you'll hit a very, very heavy set, and then you go back to the same weight you did your 10 reps with, and normally you could increase that by a good like 40%. So people when they were trying to hit like very heavy lifts, they'll start off at a relatively regular weight, increase the intensity, go back to that regular weight where they can rep it out even more just because of the contrast. So that's kind of what I feel with the reverse pyramid is like the contrast from this heavy weight. You pick up, lighter weights and you're like, oh, I can rep this out. Whereas if you would have started with that one, you probably would have been like, all right, 15, I'm good. But with that contrast, you just go up to 20 or something.
One thing that comes up for me too, Miguel, is this idea of prepping the nervous system prior to lifts by not really moving the weight, but putting a shit ton of weight on the bars. So like a good example could be, let's say you're about to back squat and you have a barbell on your back. Put about, I don't know, 30% more weight than you would actually be able to squat back up with. So let's say you put it on your back. You're like, if I squat down with this, I'm not coming back up. There's no way. So you put that on your back and you just stand with it with slight knees bent and you just feel it. You just hold it for 10 seconds. So you're prepping your nervous system with that heavy load. So then you drop the weight with the intention that I'm just prepping my nervous system doing that alone, to where then when you drop the weight to a rep range that actually is doable, then your nervous system is more equipped to actually hit that weight because it's lower and it preps it. So the same could go for like bench press. You put a ton of weight on the bench and then you just keep your elbows slightly bent, but you don't go down because you'd be crushed by it. You just know that. So for me, it'd be like, you just like trigger all the different muscle fibers. Like you're really just holding it for like 7 to 10 seconds and then you re-rack it and then you drop the weight and then you're like, okay, I can actually hit 5 reps for this. I know it. That might give you that extra 1 to 2 reps just from the nervous system prep. It's pretty wild.
I like that, especially for bench press, because that's the one where I'm like, oh, if this doesn't go up, I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, I love that. Abs. I kind of want to hit a little bit on your abs stuff, bro, because you're a chiseled guy, and I don't think you're a cutter. Do you do new cuts, or is that?
I never got into it. My whole life, I never got into like the cutting, bulking thing.
Yeah, because usually people would be like, look, if you want to let those abs be shown, you got to drop that body fat, you got to start cutting, which is typically a thing that I don't really like to think in those terms of like bulking and cutting. Like I just like to lift and eat properly, Right. What do you do for your abs? What are the technique? Because you have, again, some really awesome physiques going on, man.
I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah.
So with abs, this is the funny thing I tell people. I barely work them. And it really goes back to what you said. It's like, stay lean and you're good. Once you're around under 12% body fat, you really start seeing the abs come out. Sometimes 13, even 14%, you really start seeing abs come out. So for me, it's just maintaining a low body fat percentage and then naturally working on a lot of stability work or instability work. I like to say that's really what works it. I mean, it's not necessarily, doing a ton of crunches. I can't even remember the last time I actually sat down or laid down on my back and actually prioritized crunches or some of the cliche fitness things we see where we look up 10-minute abs. And I used to do this before, but like back in like high school when I was learning all this, but like 10-minute abs, and you just do all these repetitive movements, which is not good for your spine. You're putting strain in these areas. It's just totally unnatural. And if we look back in our ancestral times, they would be jacked and tan because they would just be lean and they would be carrying things. It's carrying thing that really builds it. So my favorite thing is just, suitcase carries, single arm farmer's carries. I love that. It really works the core. Rotational movements with the, wood chops, powerful way to build the core. Anything with like mountain climber-esque stuff where you're bringing the knee in, hanging leg raises. Those are all foundational things I do almost every day, to be honest.
Oh, really?
But not like intentional, like where I set it at a specific time, but I have like these, in my gym, I basically am always in here. So every moment after a call, I'll take advantage of doing little things like that throughout the day. So I sprinkle it in for me and my lifestyle. A lot of us, it's not feasible with our lifestyles. So I recommend just spending 1 to 2, sometimes 3 times a week, specifically working on abs. It could be 10 minutes.
2 to 3 times a week? Wow, okay, sweet.
If you're really wanting to build the foundation, because once you have your abs, you're pretty much you're in the clear. You're pretty much good for the most part, as long as you're just engaging the muscle to that area.
Yeah, I've
Or
heard
engaging
that.
the
Like, just
yeah.
building the abs and they'll stay
As long as you're kind of bringing blood flow to it. Yeah, yeah. So with that being said, I find, 1 to 2 times a week, progressive overload, the same application. You want to get stronger week after week with your core. It's not about, doing all this volume. And it's also not good for your spine doing that. You'll have backaches and things like that. So I always recommend hanging leg raises is great. You can focus on side planks, those basic movements that really work that stability aspect. Man, that's just killer for the abs.
Dude, I love that. Could we go into a little bit about your pre-workout nutrition? I've heard you talk about that you like carbs. So what kind of carbs do you recommend? I've also heard you talk about, the differences between the carbs. So you want to touch on those a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So my go-to, if it depends on what energy system you want to hit. So if you're doing like cardio, for instance, I personally don't recommend necessarily having a ton of carbs. Like you can, it's fine. But I personally like to go in more of a kind of ketosis kind of state. So if I'm doing cardio, it's usually in the morning, first thing before I eat or anything like that. I just run better doing that, right? Now, if I have a lot of carbs, I eventually run through those carbs, and then all of a sudden the glycogen's depleted, and then I'm just kind of bunking a little bit. And so when it comes to training, specifically in resistance training, I highly encourage getting some carbohydrates. My favorites personally is just like raw honey. I use this sweet potato powder from this brand Equip. It's awesome. That's really been helpful. That's been clutch over the past 2 months doing that. And I'll do that combined with some whey isolate, super easy to digest. So, 40 grams of protein or something like that. And then I'll, stack it with something like a ton of electrolytes. Those are like the pre-workout like keys. Now with carbs overall, speaking in general, I think they're foundational for testosterone, for recovery. I mean, you're a big carb guy, right?
I do like carbs. I've been playing around with a bunch of different things lately. I like paleo. So I have some questions about that later, but yeah, I do like carbs. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all like carbs deep down. So
I love carbs.
Yeah, right, right. For the most part, though, I'll be honest. Like, unless it's a training day, I will not be having carbs typically during the day, unless it's fruit. Like fruit's a caveat to that, right? So like blueberries, it's all the different fruit. I love that during the day because my goal right now is really having that focus and having that productivity. And so if I'm eating a ton of carbs midday, I usually, unless I'm moving a lot, then it's just not going to be something I'm going to metabolize and then I crash, like because the blood sugar crash. So for me, it's a different goal. But if you're training 2 times a day or you're training early in the day, go for it having carbs. I always recommend that. It improves training immensely. But there's many forms of it, as you mentioned a little bit about, like, we got starchy carbs, we got non-starchy carbs, simple way to look at it. You got easily digestible carbs, like simple sugar-based ones like the fruit we're talking about. It spikes your blood sugar a lot quicker. But that contains fructose. Some of these other ones contain more longer chains like polysaccharides, which is the starches. So they're more hardy to break down. So all that being said, it gets confusing at times, but I say just foundations for me to keep it simple, starchy carbs wise, sweet potatoes and white rice. Just keep it simple. I can name a lot more than that, but sweet potatoes and white rice are easily digestible. They're great for training. Now, if you're looking for just a quenching kind of carbohydrate or something that can really give you that instant glucose response for a workout right away or around the workout frame, we mentioned raw honey. I love maple syrup, some clean 100% pure maple syrup, and some fruit. Those are like the simple ones I like to aim for. So that's kind of like a dumbed down version of it. But
I love that. No, it's perfect because when it gets too complicated, like then you're like, oh, I need to time this differently, and I got to put this in here. But time-wise, too, you're looking at the starchy carbs like an hour before, those faster digestible carbs like 15 minutes, 10 minutes before.
That's the hard part. It's like, it's hard to say what is best, So for me personally, what I do is if I am planning on training, I'll have a specific time in the day that's best. So today was a unique one. I felt really good around 11 a.m. I worked out, 10 a.m., 11. And some days it's at 6 p.m., 7 p.m. So it just depends on my projection of the day ahead. But I do enjoy having the starchy carbs prior to workouts. And I also enjoy having the simple sugars right before the workout. So when it comes to overall digestion, starchy carbs are going to take more effort and more time. So I always recommend 2 hours before, maybe 3. Yeah, something along those lines. Maybe an hour if you can digest it pretty well. And then right before the workout, like if I'm driving, getting ready to drive to the gym or whatever, I'll take a teaspoon or 2 of raw honey. So that's like an instant blood sugar response to help out with the pump and energy.
I love that. I remember one time we were having, I think, lunch together, and then you mentioned that you'd like to separate your carbs and your proteins, like you'd be eating the carbs and then you take a little break and then eat the protein, and vice versa. Could you explain that? And if you still, are experimenting with that, and what's the idea behind that?
Yeah, so food combining is a cool thing. It's been around since ancient Ayurveda, and that's been around for over 5,000 years. It's an ancient health system from India. Traditional Chinese medicine talks about it too, but it's one of those things that I started incorporating quite a bit. Now, it's not something I obsess about. I don't think it's very feasible for a lot of us to obsess about, like, okay, if I'm having a steak, I'm not going to have my potatoes. It's like, well, that actually kind of ruins the enjoyment of life. So my steak and potatoes is amazing. Yeah. When we were having those feasts at that men's retreat, like we were just dogging down on everything, right? So yeah, man. I mean, so at that point, like if you are training, your metabolism is going to be running on all cylinders to where it is okay to have all these different things, these inputs that are different rates of digestion. That's the idea behind it. So like when you're eating, let's say, just steak, you're going to have certain enzymes secreted to just break down the proteins, right? Proteases and lipases. Now, there isn't going to be any secretion of amylases, which is carbohydrates, to break down the protein, because it's like, why? Why would we start secreting carbohydrate digesting enzymes for a steak? It just doesn't make sense. So instead, we have the amylases secreted for like sweet potato. So it can make it kind of confusing for the rates of absorption. Protein takes longer to absorb versus the potato. So it just makes it a little complicated, but in general, humans have adapted to combining foods for a very long period of time. Now it's not a huge worrisome, but it can optimize digestion a little bit more by separating the two.
Okay. And then do you recommend, because it was like on the same meals, like it's kind of tough, you want to have like an hour meal, and then eat 10 minutes of protein and then wait another 10 minutes. Well, what would you say is a good time if someone's like, I'm having gut issues, let me just try this Ayurvedic thing and give it a shot? Would you say, like, if you're eating steak and potatoes, have that steak, wait 10 minutes, 5 minutes?
Yeah, see, that's the crazy part, is digestion takes some time. It takes 2 to 3 hours before it empties the stomach into the small intestine to actually be absorbed quite a bit. So it's hard to say, and that's one of those things I don't know what would be best for that kind of thing, to be honest. But I will say that the cool part about what you mentioned there is eating the steak first is better in different ways for your blood sugar response.
Right.
Because you're going to, it's going to be supporting you by eating the protein first versus the carbs first. So there's caveats to all this. And that's why I'm like, so, whenever I'm thinking about nutrition, I'm like, there's never a clear black and white, right or wrong. It's like, it just depends on your perspective of it. Right.
Yeah. And then everybody's so different. Like everybody's stories are completely different. An interesting thing that I've learned about the stomach is that it compartmentalizes. So like when you eat, it'll like close one section off, and then you can eat another one and it won't mix. So
that's wild.
Yeah. So it'll so I was thinking in the steak situation, maybe if you waited like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, it will close almost like a sphincter, and then the potato can come in, and then
there we go.
But that's something that we both have to like look into. But it's good to know. Ayurvedic was like the first system of health, so a lot of wisdom in that. We did touch upon the grains and stuff. I've been recently trying like more of a paleo type, see how I feel. And I've been feeling actually pretty good on some of the paleo diets, just eliminating a lot of grains, eliminating some beans, obviously a lot of processed foods. What do you think about like grains and beans, to be exact? We already kind of talked a little bit about that, but I kind of want to get your full thinking of that.
Yeah, I think they have their place in the history books. And the number one thing that comes to mind is preparation. Like, how are you prepping it? Is it canned beans that hasn't been fully cooked and who knows how that was prepped? Or is it you buy them dried and then you soak and sprout them and then pressure cook them? Now they're fully easily digestible, right? They break down all those lectins and oxalates and things that they phytic acid, all those fancy things nowadays the carnivore diet throws around as a fear-mongering tactic. So I love
Your
eating.
vegetables are killing you.
Yeah, right? It's like, oh, man. No, beans have been in, like, the history books of eating forever. I mean, we've had that forever, and beans are very nutritious. There's a lot of anti-cancer compounds, like black beans especially are super powerful, and there's antioxidants in that. So I love it, man. Like, I don't have beans as much during summertime personally. This goes into, like, a lot of seasonal eating patterns I like to follow. So I'll have that typically during the winter time. I'll do a lot of pressure cooking of like that kind of stuff. The beans more hearty, heavier, like warming foods. And during summertime, just all light. Like I just love the lighter foods, ton of fruit and things like that. But going off of that, the grains and the overall beans and things like that, they have their place, but it does depend on preparation. That's the number one thing I go back to.
Yeah, yeah. Seasonal eating has been one of the things I've been also partaking in, and honestly, it's kind of fun. I really enjoy. I don't know if you know Dr. Jack Cruz or have been exposed.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been exposed to his work? He's like super big on like you need to be consuming the food that are absorbing the light that you are under for you to process it all together. Like, so I've been doing that a lot, and it's actually I really enjoy it. I've actually used ChatGPT. I don't know if you got into any of that AI stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I'd be like, give me the longitude and latitude of where I'm at, what foods are sprouting and growing at that time. And I'll just
That's smart. I got to try that out, man.
Dude, you should. It's like, it just gives you a fat list. And I'm like, more. And I'd be like, okay, this is it for the season. And then so I just write that list and then I go to the farmer's market and then I'll kind of just like, okay.
That's amazing. That's a hack right there.
Dude, yeah.
Try that out.
You've mentioned before that, we should be listening to our bodies and giving it the proper nutrients by listening. And then you've also said, for some people to count like their macros, like getting 1 gram per body weight that we are. So I'm sure, are those two for advices for two different people, or are they together?
They do clump together and they overlap in many ways. It's like the yin and yang of it. Yin is like tapping into the body, listening to the body. The yang is more of like analytical forethought on it. Like, okay, calculate, get the more analytical work. And so I like combining both. That can be a great way to go about it. Just figuring out protein. Good example of what you brought up. Like, if you're having 150 plus grams of protein a day and you're 150-pound male, that may not be necessary for you. I mean, I like the whole 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That can be very effective, just a tool, just people go back to that, right? But based on the research I've unfolded, a lot of the minimal effective dose can be related to 0.7 to 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. So you can even get less than that. Most of the time, I get around 120 to 140 grams a day, and I'm 190 pounds. So I build muscle doing that. I build strength doing that. It works really well. And I think it's also because I'm putting other inputs in, which help me rebuild, right? Yeah. The recovery tactics. So it's really not black and white, like protein's going to help you get the gains. It's like, how is your sleep? Are you getting the input from that? How's your input regarding sunshine every day? Your stress levels overall. What kind of supplements are you taking? There's so many different variables. So, I always like to consider these different things, but listening to your body, man, yeah, absolutely an important thing. Because if you're having, for instance, gut, bloating and stuff, or your skin's breaking out, or any of those little signs that our body's like screaming, yo, something's going on, listen to this. If you're not picking up those cues and you keep doing that, you're shortening your lifespan and you're going to deplete your energy over time, disrupt your hormones, the plethora of things that come with it. So yeah, listening to your body is a beautiful way to go. It can be confusing for a lot of us, but there's many places to start with that.
Yeah, I've noticed, especially for the clients that I see, it's extremely confusing when they have kids, high stress jobs, we're always around EMFs, and then just the psychological world, the news and whatnot. Like our body signals are so like subtle, and you have to be in a relaxed state to receive them. And I've noticed a lot of people have that as a huge issue. Is that something you've noticed too in your clients? I know you're in Arkansas, so it's a different type of environment there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, most of my clients are online too, and even for me personally in my own life, absolutely, like getting bombarded by every dopamine rush possible. I mean,
Yeah.
just even driving down the streets, signs everywhere, there's cars moving. It's like there's so much we have to be aware of.
Right.
But yeah, this digital age can really suck you in and deplete in many ways. So yeah, going back to nature's key. I always go back to my trail just about every day, barefoot hiking. That's one of my good ways to debrief and replenish.
Dude, I love that. Could you kind of go into how you get as much protein as you do?
Mm-hmm.
Because
yeah,
even for me, like I'm about a 155, on a good day. So 155 grams of protein is still pretty difficult.
Yeah, it is, man. Especially if we're going back to productivity and things too, and meal prepping comes into play with that. Like, man, so lately I've been experimenting with eating a little bit earlier because I'm so big on eating around noon, my first meal. It's just so easy for me to just delay until about noon or 1 o'clock. And so lately I've been shooting for that 11 a.m., 10 a.m. And that's actually a very anabolic window, is eating that protein in that range. So intermittent fasting is not necessary. If your goal is priority to reshape your body, don't obsess about intermittent fasting. I know so many guys, I have clients that are just obsessing about it. If you can get at least 12 hours minimum of not having food, that's a great, minimum effective dose as well for something to help with the gut repair and whatnot. But going off of that, for me, I like to have a smoothie just about every day, especially during these summer months. During the winter, I didn't have that as much, but I have around 40 grams of protein from a really good protein source, beef isolate powder. It's grass-fed stuff. It's good stuff in there. And that smoothie, I'll typically break the fast with right around that 11 a.m. window time. And so I'll have that. Then lately I've been doing this, Miguel, having 3 to 4 raw eggs a day. So that's been really nice. Yeah. So I just crack those bad boys in there. I keep the shells in there, like 1 to 2 shells.
The shells. No way.
Yeah, dude. Okay. I've been doing that lately. It's kind of savage, but I've been doing this past like month and a half. Okay. And I was doing a lot of research on bioavailable calcium because I know I don't drink as much milk or eat a ton of calcium products. So I know that's like bioavailable calcium right there. So I've been doing that 1 to 2 shells a day in there. You don't even taste it. It's a little gritty, but it also has that. Yeah, just like a little Vitamix Ninja bullet thing.
Yeah.
So that's been really clutch having that in there, getting the calcium up. And there's that little membrane on the inside of it, so that's really good. The collagen part of it too. But yeah, that adds up to around 50 grams, sometimes 60 grams of protein. And so
that was
me. Yeah.
You gotta send me that recipe, man. That sounds.
Dude, and here's easy. The thing too. We're probably gonna go down a whole rabbit hole of like someone saying, probably speaking or thinking, just like, yo, man, can you even absorb all that protein? Is that even possible? I hear you can only absorb 30 grams at once. For me, dude, 100% I can absorb that. If I'm like, I feel amazing from that, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's absorbing in me, like 100%, because my metabolism's so high. I'm like breaking all that shit down. Another thing I have is a little biohacking thing you can add is I crack open those mass times from Bioptimizers, 3 to 5 capsules in there. Just crack those bad boys in there, and I blend it up and I let it sit in the counter for around 30 minutes. So basically those digestive enzymes with proteases and other enzymes in there are breaking down and pre-digesting my protein into amino acids, breaking it down into more bioavailable peptides. So that makes it to where it even more is just like, okay, that's going right through my system. And I feel great, nourished. I never feel bloated. So I put the eggs in there, some of the protein. I'll put avocado sometimes, some acacia fiber, blueberries, a whole host of things. And it just digests so well.
And that's how you break your fast?
That's usually how I break it, at least lately, the past couple weeks. Previously, it was like 6 eggs, just over easy. And I would add avocado and things like that too.
And you're doing 6 eggs, dude. Yeah,
6 eggs, man. Every day I have 6 eggs just about. So it's been like that for about a year. I've had 6 eggs just about every day.
What's the egg price there in Arkansas?
Not bad. $6 a carton. So 12 for $6. So 50 cents each egg. Yeah.
That's good. All right.
Yeah, it is pretty good. Good quality pasture raised eggs. Yeah, local and
out here it's way expensive.
Dude, it's insane. What, $9, $10?
If you go to the farmer's market, it could be worse, man. Yeah. So I'm like very like oh shit, okay, got eggs. Like, and sometimes like at the farmer's market, an avocado's like $6.
Yeah, what the hell, dude?
I've gotten like really good ground beef a pound for like $7, and then seen avocados go for $8, and I'm like,
Yeah, the beef hands down first. Yeah, like
It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous.
yeah.
Speaking about beef, what do you think about 3D printed meat? Is that something you're looking forward to?
Dude, I just seen a couple videos on that. It just makes me disgusted. I can't even fathom people are in the it's not even the fact that we're doing it. It's the fact that people are like promoting it as like a new innovation. It's like you can do that and play around with that stuff, but if you're actually like saying that is the way for climate change and things, I'm like, what, dude? Like a cow grazing on some grass is more or worse for the environment versus like this industrial machine making and printing this plastic shit. Like,
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people don't understand that our farming practices are, well, conventional farming practices are really fucked up.
yeah,
Whereas, regenerative farms, good grass-fed, grass-finished beef, those farms actually produce great land. I mean, the manure goes into the soil if they're rotated properly. It's great for the environment. And then the whole printing of meat, like if you could just skip the sun part, like every part of this world and everything comes from the sun. All energy comes from the sun. Like you're just gonna skip sun. Like that's
a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna see so many new diseases coming from this.
Mutations in the DNA and all that. Yep. 100%. I mean, do you see the new thing that came out with sucralose, that artificial sweetener?
Oh yeah, there's an immune depressant.
Yeah, and it basically alters your DNA. And I knew this all along. So they find alters your DNA.
Oh, wow,
and so like if you're consistently drinking pre-workouts, sweetener, whatever with sucralose in it, be careful. Like that's just toxic. Like I always knew it killed the microbiome, but now they're really saying like, no, the DNA, it's like altering. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I read, it's funny they mentioned that because I was looking at some BCAs and one of them has sucralose. And I was like, I was like, it looked good, all of it until the sucralose. And then I was thinking about it. But from what I read, it was an immune depressant. So it was, the science article that I read was trying to sell it in a different way. Like researchers are now looking into it for autoimmune diseases to help it, like trying to spin it.
Yeah, and I will mention, anything like that, the doses of poison and the length of time you're taking that is the poison. So if you're constantly dousing yourself and things like that are loaded up in that's going to be an issue. But if you're having it every once in a blue moon, don't freak out. It's totally fine. Like our bodies are resilient.
Yeah, that's good point, because I like to do like an 80-20 rule. I should really do the math on it, but I'll eat like very clean all week, and then Friday night I'll do a dinner. And Saturday night, I'll also do a dinner out, and I'll do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah. Who cares if there's seed oils in it? Your body's getting the equipment it needs to run.
Yeah. But you mentioned seed oils. That's my next question. So seed oils, I know you're coaching people. Where in your step is that, like removing of the seed oils? Because this actually took a lot for me to get through my head, because I'd always be like, well, it was natural seed oils. And then I learned that they take like 3 months to 2 years to come out of the system. And I was like, holy shit. So now I'm just like, any product that I'm eating throughout the week and it's like a staple, like completely, I'm eliminating those seed oils. What step is that in your coaching?
Yeah, it's immediately. Like when I start working, when I work with nutrition, I immediately go back to fats, like immediately.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think fats are the foundation for everything, because it's like, if we can get the precursors to a lot of the hormones we have in our body, you're going to start feeling amazing. Your skin's going to start glowing. I'm just huge on a really healthy, fat-rich diet.
Yeah.
It's changed my life. Now, it depends on different DNA, like, if you're polar, there's different areas with that it depends on. For me, I'm very European, so I obviously analyze that to some degree. But for the most part, cutting out and being very outspoken about these seed oils, these vegetable seed oils, processed in hexanes. And like you mentioned, they're rancid, they're oxidized, they're old.
Yeah.
So, eliminating those as best you can and doing their best to shift from some of the processed foods into more enjoyable, delicious, nutritious whole foods. And going back to staples, coconut oil, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil is huge. I get every one of my clients on that. Like 3 to 5 tablespoons a day, I go get them on.
Oh wow! Wait, hold on. Will you have them like consume it, like just?
No, I put douse it on food. It's not like they savagely take shots.
Then why is that?
I don't do that either. But
is it just to get get them in the body, the olive oils and the polyunsaturated fats?
Yeah, yeah. So olive oil is loaded up. Speaking of polyunsaturated fats, a good balance of monounsaturated fats as well.
Mm.
And those monounsaturated fats tend to be commonly neglected in our diet. Avocado is another rich source of that. And so another key component of a good quality extra virgin olive oil is if it's, cold pressed, it's single sourced from a location like Greece or Tunisia or something like that. It's in a glass bottle, things along those lines. It's organic. That's going to be extremely anti-inflammatory. There's numerous studies, especially on these Mediterranean diets, supporting cognitive growth and preventing decline, supporting overall inflammation in the body, fat loss. It has a tremendous amount of benefits, and it's loaded up in antioxidants. And these polyphenols and antioxidants are great for all aspects of health. Like oleocanthal is a big one. It's loaded up in oleo. It's like the key word in that, which stands for olive. Go figure. Is abundant in olive oil, and it's been shown to be just as anti-inflammatory as low-dose ibuprofen, and just like a shot or two. Yeah, so you could take like a gut-killing, gut-irritating ibuprofen, or you can just drink a tablespoon or two of like olive oil, good quality olive oil, and you're getting those anti-inflammatory benefits. So yeah, I get my clients on that, usually 2 to 5 tablespoons a day of that. Butter, grass-fed butter, I'm a huge fan of. Ghee, yeah.
You've also mentioned before when people are trying to bulk, you recommended fats. Now, is that something just to get the calories in, or I'm sure it plays a part of that too, getting the calories in as well as increasing your nutrition level. How do you go about that when people are trying to put on size?
So it depends on the client's like what they're eating at that moment. So if they're eating a very low fat diet, it's hard to load up on all these fats all the way, at once, because their liver and their production of these enzymes is very, very low. And so it's important to titrate your way up into that, increasing the fats over time. The same goes for fiber. If you're increasing your fiber, don't just eat a gargantuan amount at once. You're going to get clogged up, right? You need your ability to slowly build up to the fiber increasing. So yeah, that's one of those things. I think what you brought up right there is it's just so beneficial for increasing caloric density. And so if you're expelling more energy through the gym or activities, an easy way to boost that caloric density is from olive oil as a good example, or butter, or coconut oil.
Mm-hmm. Okay, love that. I kind of want to touch on the enzymes real quick. You did mention it before that, you put them in your smoothie and whatnot. I've always been kind of a little nervous because I know we produce our own enzymes. And I also know that if you take something that your body produces over time, your body will stop producing it. So I was wondering if, I don't know if it works. I like taking my mass enzymes too, and I'll have them with really big meals. What do you feel about that? Or do you know any research on that?
Yeah, I haven't seen any research specifically coining enzymes as an issue. Okay. And there's no long-term studies on this types of stuff. That's what's so hard about it. It's like there's like 3 to 5 month studies tops. And so I always like to listen to my body. Going back to that, is I've done 8 months consistently on the enzymes, and then I just was like, I'm not going to order anymore for 3 to 4 months. I noticed a big difference in recovery and things like that. That's what's great about it, is the healing from it. Yeah. But I didn't really notice any issues with gut whatsoever specifically. I do agree with you in some way that your body will inhibit production, when it comes to taking certain things. It just depends on how consistently you're taking it, and, how well you're regulating other areas of your life. So like vitamin D3, for instance, if you're taking that every day in high doses, it can be good for immune support for a lot of people, but I say just start with the sunshine and take vitamin K2 instead. Like, if it's wintertime, of course, I take vitamin D3 during wintertime. It's great. But there's balancing acts with all these certain nutrients and things like that. Like magnesium's a non-negotiable for me just about every day. I feel a difference when I go a week or two without it, like immediately. So wow, it's not something I'm concerned about, but it's like, oh, I did sleep deeper on it. It's like it's subtle, right?
Yeah. I love that. I got to get some more magnesium. Yeah. One thing I did want to hit on is, we have so many things, man. Getting sun, going into the cold plunge, jumping into the sauna, exercising, stretching, supplements, meditating. There's like so many things we can do that people feel they should do. And this is one thing I've noticed, like, full-time working and, trying to do different things and still have relationships with friends and family. There's just like a plethora of things health-wise that I like to do and sometimes feel obligated to do. How have you found a balance in that? I'm sure you've been through that too.
Oh yeah, the whirlpool, man. Of just like so many different areas to work through. It's chaotic, and especially in this digital age, like we're seeing so many things constantly. Get this, do this routine. It's gonna be the best thing ever for fat loss or your mental health. For me, it's like I'm at that point where I've cracked the code on what works well for me. Non-negotiables, like having a set morning routine. Like that's just simplicity. Like to start off, it doesn't have to be 2 to 3 hours. It could be just very simple, an hour, 30 minutes. Dedicate that time to yourself before you give to the world. That's like a number one thing I recommend to everyone. Yeah. Simple morning routine, movements, a big one, sunshine, hydration. Stick to those things. Movement, sunshine, hydration. Then you can add extra things that can really help you out with mental health, like journaling. Got my journal right here. Could be reading, could be meditation, breath work, cold plunge. Those are accessories, right? Just think about the foundations, right? I always like to say, don't jump over pennies to catch dollars or pick up dollars, right? Stick to the pennies. Just pick up the pennies. Those are the small things that are actually, I think I said that wrong. I think it's the other way around, actually.
Don't over dollars to catch pennies.
Yeah, that's it. That's hilarious. I said that to I was like, wait, hold on, let me think about that for a second. So that's the whole idea. Like, don't jump over dollars to catch pennies.
Yeah.
All the pennies are the things in the industry that are trying to convince us like that's what you need to do. Cold therapy. Is it an essential for everyone? No, I don't think so. I think it creates that extra zest for people. Yeah. So before that, just get natural movement. Go on a walk in the morning. Get the sunshine. Those are all basics every human can do. Every human can do that, no matter where you are, no matter if you're traveling, whatever. So little things like that is what I'm big on. And yeah, I keep my headspace clear by really focusing on what I know works well for me instead of just researching all these new hacks and things.
No, yeah, definitely. The most important ones are like those natural ones where like sunshine, sleep, good food. Grounding is one that I've been trying my best to get. Yeah, especially since I work indoors so much. So like I have to be constantly going outside, take the shoes off, walk on the grass, there's dog poop, to go around it, find somewhere I can sit and take my shirt off like in public. I don't know if you have like little streets, but here in the city we have like big apartment complexes, and they always have like this really thin lawn. And then I'm the guy who like walks to them and like takes my clothes off and like lays out and like gets sun during their sun break. That's what I call it, but my lunch break. But like those, the natural ones have been the most important for me. And then, the bonuses would be like the ice bath and the sauna, which I fucking love too. So it's a lot of stuff. Have you noticed when you exercise, or clients of yours or people that that exercise a lot, do you have this occurrence of like low energy throughout the day? I've had issues with that. Like sometimes I'll be lifting really hard, trying to get to a goal, and then the rest of the day I'm like, fuck, like I don't have any left for clients and work. Have you been through that too, or?
I mean, today I had that. Now it's like, I went through that today. Actually, I was mentioning I was like lifting heavier, and that really took a hit on my nervous system. Also, I had coffee today, which I haven't had in a week. And so caffeine, I took a break on, and I think I had a bit too much from that. But yeah, that gave me a little bit of a crash earlier, right around like 4 p.m. this afternoon, evening. And then, you pick it up again from movement and things that can really rekindle that energy again. But I totally agree with you. Yeah, if you hit the exercise really, really hard, it's just analyzing where's your nervous system based on these different quote unquote inputs, I like to say again, or working in, as Paul Chek's big on, or working out. It's like focusing on the working in principles is going to be completely the bedrock of everything versus like, focus on just expelling energy all the time. So yeah, if you have that crash later on, analyze the inputs, analyze the outputs.
Got it. Speaking about outputs, you've mentioned no fap on a lot of your videos. What's up with that? Do you feel is that something you practice? Can you go a little deeper into that?
So I will change it to not no fap, but no porn.
No porn. Okay.
Yeah. So I think I don't like the word masturbation. I like saying this fancy terminology of sexual energy cultivation. I think we all are sexual beings. I think that's what gives life on earth is sexual energy. We wouldn't be alive right now talking if it weren't for two people coming together and, you know, building that energy together, creating that life force. And so I think we can work that energy, and we can do it every day if we want. Montauk Chia is someone I look up to quite a bit. He's been doing this Taoist, a lot of these Taoist principles for, you know, he's like in his 70s now, I think. He looks so young. He's sharp as a tack. But he talks about all these basic things like massaging the testicles daily, or, you know, working the energy, but doing so in a standing position that you're just like, you know, grounded. Like, you know, Troy Casey, right? Yeah. So, yeah, of course. Like sexual kung fu. Yeah, slapping the balls. Exactly. All that. Like, I practice that stuff all the time, especially after the cold plunge. I'm just like getting that energy going, man. It's primal. It's savage. It's crazy. But it's not doing so with like a lustful mindset like we've been programmed today. And I've fallen victim to the pornography quite a bit in my life, and it's so devastating on my mental health. I feel detached from my body. It's so messed up. We all know what that feels like as men. We've all been there. We can all relate to that. And I'm on a mission to help men cultivate this energy and do so in a way that isn't related to pornography or a screen or this digital manner, but in a way it's like, okay, how do I breathe in this energy, you know, and circulate it in a sense. Another thing I'm big on is sexual transmutation. So it's directing that sexual energy into a creative endeavor. So if you're like, man, I have this mindset, I want to watch porn, I'm very horny all of a sudden, analyze that consciously. Now, how do you redirect that sexual energy, that like libido builder right there, into an avenue of creation, whether it's, you know, like you, videography, I need to edit this video, or, you know, I need to work on something, not need to, but I get to transfer that energy to journaling or doing push-ups or going on a walk outside. Like, how can you move that towards an avenue of good, healthful habits versus something that really brings you down? So sexual transmutation is really cool as well.
Yeah, I've had a really tough time practicing that one. Just because, like, I remember just holding it in for so long that I was just, I was like, oh my God, oh God, this is killing me. It'd be just like, I'd be in a parking lot, just like, oh my goodness. And that's a tough one. That's one I definitely need to cultivate more and learn more about.
And you don't need to, you get to, right? We're all going to, yeah.
I get to, yeah.
The words.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've definitely, I'm on a journey as well. And it's like I hear about it, I think about it, I give it a try, then I'm like, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to get for longer. I've noticed kind of like that pattern for myself where it's like baby steps. Some guys are just like, all right, no fap, I'm down, let's do it.
Yeah. I think the crazy part about it is like, don't count the days. That fucks me up all the time.
Oh, really?
I think counting I mean, it's helpful in a way, but it's also like, it's almost like, how long are you trying to go for? Are you actually making this like adherable, or is this like a restriction? It's like this. Anything you direct energy towards, at least when I say you, anything I direct energy towards, there's almost like this sense of resistance towards it. That's energy going towards it, right? So if I'm like resisting, I'm not going to watch porn, I'm not going to jack off, I'm not going to do that, okay? You're putting energy towards that, right? And so therefore it's almost like this demonic energy that's pestering you all the time, poking you with a pitchfork, and it's like, hey, this can happen right now. Yeah. But if you end up like embracing that energy of like, oh, that's a part of myself I love, and I'm going to embrace that, then you can work through it. And then this is kind of like funny spiritual talk, but you can really work through it and then just like, you know, dissipate it and work it to where it's not like billowing up in you and you just bust a nut, right?
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
As I had that same experience when I did my first 3-day fast, and I completely messed up by overthinking it. I was like, you know, 5-7
the time.
Oh, I can't eat. No, I'm gonna fast, guys. No. Oh,
yeah.
And it was like I completely psychologically overthought it. Like, it could have been so much simpler, a lot easier, a lot better for me. But I completely ruined that for myself just by like overthinking about it, telling everybody, no, I can't eat that. Like, no, I'm gonna fast. I can't hang out. It was a mind trick I played on myself. It was not cool.
Yeah, it's not cool, man.
No. I wanted to talk a little bit about some bullshit topics as well. I think we covered the ground for some good, like, health, helping the people, helping the world topics. And now let's go into the junk food of conversations. I want to get into the food wars between the carnivores and the fruitarians and the vegetarians and the vegans. What do you think about the food wars and the state of where we're at as a health community? Are we also divided?
Yeah, it's funny. It's almost like everything's replicated from like political standpoint into like nutrition. So everyone has a religion nowadays, and their religion isn't necessarily Christianity or Hinduism. It's transferring as a religion into these areas of like nutrition, for instance, what we're talking about here, or it could be, a certain athletic program that's amazing, or a certain clothing that I wear. It's like all these different religions we start living by, and it's creating more divisiveness versus just like loving people for what they are and accepting what works well for you as it works well for you.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of the things I teach to clients is flexibility with all this. Like, you can try out a carnivore diet, see how you feel. Great, you feel amazing. But is that something you really want to do for life? Is like when you go out to a restaurant, you're like, no, I'm not having the French fries because, it's not carnivore.
Mm-hmm.
What about plants? And you're just like, man, I'm really smelling that ribeye and it smells so good right now, but I'm not going to eat it because it's a heady thing. Like, so I think when we get intellectual with food versus like biological with it, it changes the whole game, right? So if we can really tap into like the body and like going to the body and stop listening to like this little voice in the head that this is right, this is wrong. These dogmatic views are what create that divisiveness and that divisiveness in our head too, where we become so confused. And I think when we live by a label, it puts us in a box and we create a prison in life. And it's like, how do we just break free from the chains and like feel free? And diet is a big thing I see constantly. It's like, this is right or this is wrong. It's like, no, it's fluid.
Yeah.
Be like water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I catch so many people getting into it like, oh, you fucking fruitarians are so stupid. Like, and then like your carnivores are so fucking, like, you guys are idiots. And like, it's a shit show out there, man. I'm glad that, especially you're able to speak out and be like, our ancestors wouldn't pass up a sweet potato, like it wouldn't be like, nah, I'm carnivore. That's going to fuck up my ketosis.
Right.
Like,
they wouldn't think logically about it. That's the problem.
no.
We get heady about it nowadays. It's like, yeah.
But what do you think about like this idea that, being muscular and strong is a part of toxic masculinity and misogyny? What do you think about that bullshit?
Well, like the world is out to get you, man. And like, it's not there to support you. Like Jordan Peterson's what I think about when I hear all that, it's so funny. Like, cause me and my buddies, we just joke around about it all the time and just like speak like Jordan. That's the way to go. And so it's so good. It's just like, bloody hell, all these Marxists and these neo-Nazis are thinking that, vegan's the way, man. It's like, no.
Bro, that's a good Jordan.
Yeah, I'm getting there, man. I've been working on it. Me and my buddies have on calls and I just like go at it.
The pauses. No, that was good. I like that. Wow. Fuck yeah. Oh my goodness.
So I think going on with that, man, I think I'm actually reading this really good book. It's so awesome.
Yeah,
it's upstairs. It's called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. Have you read it?
You know what? I picked it up and I haven't been able to fucking open it up.
Dude, pick it up. It's amazing.
Okay, yeah.
So I started chewing away at it again. I read it 5 years ago and I'm rereading it now, and it's changed my life just like so much, reflecting on all this. I think today men are lacking a rite of passage. We don't have that as we did in the tribes for thousands of years, where there was some physical, spiritual, mental warfare we went through that made us a better man and humbled us, and it removed the ego. It made us come back into what is most important, which is connecting to others and being a spiritual fortress for others. Instead of getting real, every man, it seems like nowadays, now this is a big statement saying that, let me rephrase that. It seems like many men nowadays are falling victim to the victim mindset. They're falling victim to the victim mindset. They're getting into the feminist kind of qualities, and we're losing touch with that divine masculinity. And I think that macho jerk ideal is totally misconstrued, because it's, if you're working out, like, I'm a cis white male, I'm a straight cis white male. And when I come across as a very healthy, like you are too. And it's almost like we've turned the tables from being very patriarchal with white males into this like feminist movement. Now white males are the problem. And it's like, I'm just doing my thing. I'm just a kind soul. why are you like almost racist against me now? So I'm seeing this emergence of like, oh, wait, we were all out on this tier. Now we're going to do the opposite spectrum. See how that works. Same goes for, let's go full out with Obama and Biden, and let's go to Trump and then, George Bush or whatever. It's like, why are we so wish-washy and like back and forth? Like, can we just like meet in the middle again? Is that okay? Like, it just doesn't seem apparent nowadays.
Yeah. I think there's a lack of wisdom, because wisdom is the ability to, see both sides and then do what's optimal, right? Yeah, I feel like there's like a big cloud of chaotic, confusing energy that's just flowing through.
Dude, everyone's so sad and confused. That's the root of all this. I don't think anyone's innately evil or mean.
Right.
I think like, if we think about the elitists and all that stuff, whatever's going on up there, I don't focus my energy too much on it. I know what's going on, but I think those people are just sad and confused. Yeah. Like BlackRock, Vanguard, all these big conglomerates, the Rockefellers. I think those people are just very sad and confused. They aren't evil. They're just really fucking selfish, sad and confused, Yeah.
I don't know if you've been around powerful people, or, I recently went to Coachella, and
oh man.
Yeah. Well, when you're around like extremely famous people, it's almost like this energy. It's weird. I'm sure when you get to like extreme wealth or like the ultra rich, like when you're up in that like echelon, I'm sure there's this overwhelming of like, whoa, I have all this power, and like it almost like it's not even you and your past corrupting you. It's like this this power, this newfound energy that's there, that's almost like pulling you into like this like well, I can do what the fuck I want.
Right. It's a demonic energy in a sense. Yeah, it's almost like it's a lower vibrational energy to some degree.
And I don't know why that kind of creeps up around like extremely famous people and ultra wealthy people. I don't know what it is. I'd be interested to know if anybody has done any deep dive into that, but it's really interesting.
It is interesting. I think, going off that original discussion with Jordan Peterson and stuff, I think it's just like, if people just start working on themselves, especially men, to start working on yourself and not doing so out of a selfish way, but working on yourself so you can be, selfless. That's my like overall goal. Is I'm super selfish, dude. Every day I'm selfish. I'm prioritizing everything I can to really just give my body the fortitude it needs and just focus on me. I'm so selfish, but that allows me to hop on 15 calls a day back to back or whatever it may be. And the same goes for you. Like, the more you really just focus on, all right, I'm going to work out, I'm going to eat really nutritious, I'm going to sleep really deep, I'm just going to focus on me, and that's it, then that makes it way easier to provide for your family, to provide for your work and craft, to provide for others. Like, that's the thing we're losing touch with, I feel, slowly in our society.
Mm-hmm. Being selfish to be able to support and provide for others.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like a bad thing. Like, you should, I don't know, like a good example is
at all costs, like always be selfish.
Yeah, that's what my mom thinks. I mean, I don't know what your mom's like, but like my mom is for sure just super selfless, and her whole life she's always just given to the kids and like, how can I help you? Like, how are you feeling? Like, all those things, and it's beautiful, but it also takes away from her vessel, and she's not even enjoying life because she's giving so much to others.
Is she Christian?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. My mother is the exact same way. She's like, it's like, no, you give even if you don't have to give. And I'm like, no, like, I think you need to first get your shit together and then like, help others, like a crippled person won't be able to support, a family if they're taking care of themselves or have the ability to do so, That's funny. I think that's like a Christian.
It is a Christian thing for sure, dude. Yeah. I see it all the time. Yeah.
Speaking of Christianity and religion, I finally have come to a deep understanding that like the number one thing everybody should get down, even before health, nutrition, and relationships, is a deep relationship with their sense of God or the universe or whatever it is. This is one of the bigger things that has come in my life, where like, the first things I thought were like, get your health right, get your psychology right, your relationships. And then I've come to find that like, when you really go through those hard times, it's like your deeper sense of there's something or someone or whatever out there that is has my best interests, and I'm going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Have you found that too in yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah. It started off as one of those things where I've been pushed Lutheranism throughout my life and very, Christian ideals. And it was out of love for my family, but it felt like it was pushed to some degree, and they were doing it because that's obviously their belief system, and it felt good. I've always been a part of it, but there was a point in time where it was like my late high school years and just like living at my home with my family during community college and things. I just started veering away from all that, just feeling detached from it. And then over the past couple of years, I've come to this understanding of like, even outside of religion, but this understanding of like, there is something, this omniscient, omnipotent, like power out there that really just like drives me forward and is keeping me and my fingernails growing and my energy high and my eyes clear. It's like, there's something out there that allows me to tap into that, like that wisdom, use that word wisdom. And yeah, that's a huge driving force. Like all my clients, before we even begin working on like all the stuff they want to talk about with nutrition and like fitness or whatever, I'm like, what is your why? What is your purpose on this planet? And once they identify this purpose, which a lot of them fall into the tracks of the selfishness a little too much, where it's like, I'm here to, really learn, grow, and become better than yesterday or whatever it may be. And it's like, okay, that sounds great. That's awesome. But how do we make that connected to something that's like bigger than yourself? Like that's very myopic on who you are. How do we connect that to God? How do we connect that to source or whatever energy you really click with? And that can be the driving force. Like for me, it's like to love God and nature and to energize and empower people to live a more happy, sustainable, and balanced life. And, I throw in different words here and there with that, but in general, I have that to love God and nature. Now that just like builds up the core of that purpose statement. If I just said to energize and empower people to live like that's helping others, great. But where is that like even layer deeper than the people? Like, why are the people here? It's God. It's like some form of God in my eyes. And so, I mean, it's proven too in longevity, like blue zones, everyone worldwide that has a higher energy they look up to and live their life in accordance to, they're going to live a longer life and a more fulfilling life. If you're an atheist, you're not going to live as long. And for one, I feel like for all you atheists out there, like I feel like that's a horrible way to live. Oh, there's nothing out there. It's almost like this nihilistic view. Like, it doesn't matter, whatever, like I can do whatever. Like it doesn't matter. Like that's just it is a low vibrational energy, I believe. And so, yeah, going full circle, man, there is something out there in my life and it helps me continue to grow and blossom and help others.
Yeah. I was atheist for a long time because I was pushed on like Catholicism was pushed onto me.
Yeah.
I was just like, first of all, it doesn't make sense. And right away I'm a sinner. And so like I had, so I was like,
right away I'm a sinner. Like,
right. Yeah. But I was like, I was in third grade, I was very young. So you're just like, fuck you, fuck everybody. God doesn't exist. Like, can you show me, and then, that's when I went more towards like these Eastern religions. And then like, and little by little, you're able, as you, become an adult, you get to see like, oh, I see what they're saying. I see what they're saying. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. You start, your brain just starts connecting these things better and you're able to see God. And it's been a beautiful thing. And I want to end with this. Have you seen the UFO news, like the news on UFOs lately?
Dude, I think I saw a clip where it was like, there was a 10-foot tall man out there and like they saw a flash in the sky.
That was in Vegas. That was in Vegas.
Yeah. Oh, that was? Okay.
That was in Vegas.
I don't know what to think about any of this. I think it's all part of
that super drop, but yeah.
Yeah. I just was kind of adding that because they kind of gave that kind of fun effect, like it's a movie, and it feels like we're in a movie right now with that. Like, yeah, man. I don't know what I think about that. I think all this is planned out. I think there's a whole system with like news and like even right now. I think it was a couple days ago or even yesterday. New York is completely cloudy and smoke and smog. And if we look at the bird's eye view of what the heck is going on in Canada and these different areas and even in the west area, northwestern area, they say these are burns happening through climate change, just like in the forest. But if you look at the way it's unfolding, all these burns are happening within a 2-hour period and they all just start lighting up in the bird's eye view. Like it's like all happening simultaneously. So I don't think any of this is created by nature. I think man-made, and this is done in a way that's not like a controlled burn, because if it was a controlled burn, it wouldn't be lighting up the whole city with smog. Right. And then everyone has to wear masks and stay indoors and like lock up. Connect that right there. Like everyone has to stay indoors, wear masks, and lock up. It's another repetition of us getting comfortable and domesticating us. The government's domesticating us and making us more comfortable with being uncomfortable and wearing masks and not socializing, locking things down. It's another repetition because we can't do another, we can't do another COVID. We tried it with the monkeypox. Like, people, that's not going to do anything. A virus is over with. What's the new thing? Fearing people with UFOs, scaring people with getting attacked by aliens, scaring people with climate change, scaring people with this. It's all a part of a plan. They had this shit planned out for the next 2 to 5 years, if not longer. So I think that's what's going on personally. I think there's this deeper state thing that's under control. And I watch this stuff here and there. I just kind of laugh because I'm just like, I'm not doing anything about that. I'm focused on my craft and my mission. I have no reason to get distracted by that. I could go down wormholes and research it. It's interesting. It fascinates me, but it also is distracting. Yeah, and that's the whole core of it. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on it. But I mean, what are your thoughts, dude? I want to hear from you too.
My thoughts, I've seen a UFO with my own eyes, not like up in the sky. And my grandmother has also seen one up close. So I'm just like, I
can believe it's real for sure.
100%. I'm sure the timing is probably more convenient for whoever, wants to, like you said, distract.
What if I took it, when we took this turn real quick, what if this figures they saw, the flashes, what if all this shit's created by the government? What if? I like adding that what if. I'm playing just devil's advocate here because the technology we have today is insane, right? Yeah. So if we can think about like
we have available, imagine the people,
imagine the people behind the scenes working on this shit. So that's what I always think about too. And like, we have cameras every fucking angle, and this is just America having cameras, but like imagine China, every single little crack and corner has a camera on it. You're not like, you're always being watched, right? That's getting to that point in the US where it's like, we're getting to that, like everywhere you walk, there's a camera everywhere, right? And so I think that's one of those things too, that's like a little freaky, is like, just knowing you're always being watched and there's something going on. Like, that's a whole other rodeo I could go down with, that conspiracy kind of thing with cameras and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the whole idea of like, we could create these types of images or flashes or things and they look so real, they're right in front of us, but they're not. It's not, I don't know.
I can see that. Have you ever listened to Tim Ferriss podcast?
I did back in the day. It's been a while though. Have you heard something?
Heard the one with the man, they called him the Scorpion Spy.
Oh, it sounds badass. Tell me about it.
So this guy had like genius level intelligence. So he'd do all these competitions and whatnot. And then he was entrepreneurial. So he opened up a company in his later years. And the basic motto of his company is, we'll do anything you need help with. Like, what do you need to be solved? So he goes in depth into this one scenario where this Russian billionaire was like, hey, my son's about to marry a Ukrainian woman who just wants the visa, and she's going to marry him, and there's going to be no prenup, and they're going to take a bunch of money. He's like, I need you to get them divorced. So he goes into how they had actresses, they rented out, they followed her, they went and rented out the Starbucks that she goes to every single day, filled it up with fake people, had one seat open next to their actress who is going to be like the girl that they're going to converse and get to know and like infiltrate her life, and taught the dad how to act to get the son mad. So they'd like fly to Puerto Rico on a private jet, so she gets subpoenaed and get deported. And like the level of conspiracy to just get these people divorced or to get them broken up is just crazy. And this is just one guy, one company. And it just makes me think of what is possible, in the government, but also in my own life of like, hey, these people were able to do all that shit. I can turn my battery on and get something done too, So I always love that fucking podcast. I'll send that one to you.
Dude,
it's
please,
so
dude.
Crazy. Yeah.
These are mind fucks, man. Because it's like, how do we wrap our head around that stuff? Is it real? Like, it's like, yeah, it's all the stuff we see in the movies too. Like, there's so many things we're seeing that are like preparing us for the doomsday type stuff. It's like Hollywood and like, I think the amount of violence in movies and TV shows is insane nowadays. So much violence, so much gore, so much, and all that's almost like, why? Yeah, like why is that prepping us for some of that stuff to come? Like I don't know. Like I watched Black Mirror a ton, and I really regret it in a sense because that shit was so dark and twisted, and it got me really thinking about like the state of the world and the control. And I think it's almost prepping us for, like these digital dogs that are taking over the world and like things like that. It's like these video games that you can get implants in your brain, and they, you know, you're in the game, and it's like what, like all that's happening right now. I mean, Elon Musk is doing all this in a. That's another guy too. I'm like, that guy's fishy. He's super fishy, dude. So all these big conglomerates and things.
Yeah. Well, bro, thank you so much for being on. Really appreciate it. CVC Wellness on Instagram and on YouTube, right?
Yep. Started expanding the YouTube.
Dude, I love that. And just for everybody who's watching and listening, that's where you can find this, man. Thank you so much for being on, brother. And I really appreciate all the inputs.
Thank you, Miguel. It's been a pleasure, man. A lot of fun.